what's going on in Syria right now is not about Russia being this, we're not in the Cold War anymore. And I think President Obama made a pretty fair explanation of that. He's not running for office. Like, let's be fair here.
Nomiki,
he's the president.
I want to go back to something you said, that essentially the American people don't understand Syria. But see, that kind of attitude out of the White House is the reason that the American people do not trust what the president's doing, because it's like, I know better. You people are too stupid to understand what's happening in the Middle East.
I think that the media has done a really bad job of explaining Syria. This isn't the president's fault. This is nobody's fault. I think that Syria is pretty complicated, and people don't understand the factions at play here.
I think we full-on understand what's going on in Syria. We were busy doing a deal with Iran, and we thought Iran and Russia would get on our side to get rid of Bashar al-Assad, and that is not happening. Instead, Russia has come in, trying to pump up the price of oil, and is allying itself with not only Iran and Syria, but also Iraq. And we are left caught with our pants down, and we should be worried. And our allies are Saudi Arabia is and Israel is. And the president dismissed that because he turned it back and turned it on the Republicans.
Well, what would the alternative be? I mean, is the alternative to bomb the entire region? I mean, that's all I'm hearing from Republicans at this point.
Come on, give me a break. Nomiki, please. Mike, how do you see this?
So, watching that interview live last night, to me, it was scary, really, to see how the leader of the free world, our president, kept, you pointed it out, he kept getting cut off by Steve Kroft. He didn't come across presidential in any way, shape, or form to me. And when he was asked the tough questions about actually being on the ground and what Putin is doing over in Syria, to switch it back to climate change, to me, that was the weakest part of the interview, and it just showed me that he wasn't really tied into what the people wanted to hear and the answers that we, the people, are looking for.
Well, how about he came in and said, I never really believed in trying to train these rebels. I was skeptical of that from the beginning. Well, then why did you do it? You're the leader of the country. Why did you do it?
I take issue with the idea that reporters shouldn't be cutting off the president of the United States. I mean, he's a politician and he's trying to sell a political position, and the idea that, a reporter should be sitting there and being like, oh yes, Mr. President, tell us, your version of things. Politicians spin things, even the president.
Wow, look, this is all about an increasing feeling across the country and, by the way, across the world, that the president's foreign policy is misguided. And that's the bottom line. And that's what I think Steve Kroft was trying to get the president to defend. And the president is there saying, well, the Russian economy is plummeting, so this is weakness from Putin. But Putin, let's all agree, I mean, Putin does not look weak.
He doesn't look weak, but that's exactly what his point is. I mean, all Putin does, it's all about imagery. He's like Donald Trump in that way. It's all about what's on the outside, but not what's going on inside.
Right. Anastasia, how do you see it?
The reality is that we do need a serious strategy, right? In the absence of a serious strategy that has worked, led by the United States, there is an opening there for somebody else to take the leadership there.
Right.
So clearly, if we have not delivered it, and frankly we haven't, because you have Assad, you have the rebels, you have ISIS, we've not delivered that leadership. Somebody has to.
You know what? I looked at that after the fact, after watching it last night, and thought, well, our strategy is to leave. Our strategy is to not be there and to just leave that vacuum. That's the strategy. He said America is safer. I don't think the president wants us to be involved in the Middle East at all.
I agree with you. The first Democratic candidate debate one day away, Tuesday night, the 13th. Clinton maintaining her lead as the front runner. Alexis, how do you see this? A new CBS poll shows Mrs. Clinton ahead of Bernie Sanders by 19 points with 46% of the vote. Vice President Joe Biden remaining in third place with 16%, even though we still don't even know if he's going to run.
Right. I mean, Biden is the big, elephant in the room in this debate, for lack of a better term, because we're all waiting to see what he's going to do. And he said he's not going to be in this debate. He said he's going to kind of wait and see what happens. But I think if Clinton has a really bad debate, which, we'll see if that actually happens, that's a big opening for Joe Biden right there.
That's a big if.
I can't wait to see Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders has to basically convince people that he is a viable national candidate. Right?
I think the polls are convincing people that right now.
No, but he has to, in his presentation, he needs to come across.
You're saying, Nomiki, the polls are showing that he is a substantial candidate?
Yeah, in the primary. swing states right now. I mean, listen, he raised almost as much money as Hillary Clinton did without having to run across the country and take money from special interests and big Democratic donors and make false promises. And now he's effectively pushed Hillary Clinton's positions further to the left, which is going to be interesting if Biden does come into the race, because she's going to be in a strange setup where she has been a flip-flopper on many issues, and that's going to be an issue on stage.
And Anastasia, he's an admitted socialist.
I think the interesting point to watch here is going to be, it's one thing to be likable and it's another thing to be electable, and a lot of the Democratic voters, or voters period, want somebody who might actually be electable. So I don't know what your guys' take on this is, but who is electable, Hillary or Bernie?
Well, but also, I mean, this is a point where you were saying you don't really think highly of Donald Trump. Donald Trump looks electable right now if we're just looking at the polls. Donald Trump is the GOP frontrunner, period, in primary states, in national polls. So, I mean, are we putting as much stock in Bernie's poll numbers as we are in Donald Trump's numbers? I don't know.
Point. Yeah, no,
right.
You're right.
I think if you're in Hillary's camp, the fact that everything that's gone on to get to this point, to get to this debate, and to still be in the lead, I think is a breath of fresh air for her camp. I think if she does even a decent job tomorrow night, it'll kind of put a lot of the email stuff behind her.
Well, she's historically been a really great debater, too. So.
Yeah, she's a better debater than she is campaigner. That's
exactly.
true. Alexis, good to see you. Thanks so much. Nomiki, thanks very much for your insights. We appreciate it, ladies.